Hello, traders. It's 8:01 a.m. Chicago time on Thursday, the 24th of October, 2019. This is episode number 1624. Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. This morning, overall, risk appetite, we're seeing a pop higher in equities and risk assets. The leader this morning is the Nasdaq, up 45 points from yesterday's settlement, followed by crude. Crude had a pretty good sized push up yesterday and is continuing the push higher this morning. Crude's up 30 cents, trading at 56.27, expecting a test of 57. $57.11 in crude at some point here soon. It's the next logical test area, likely test area. The DAX is up 48 points. The laggard today is the bonds. The bonds are off just a bit, 6 ticks. The treasuries are off 2 big ticks, and gold is pretty much flat, trading at 1495.8. So that's where we stand. Just a slight risk on sentiment. We did get some news this morning out of China wanting to buy $20 billion worth of agricultural products in the U.S. Looks like they're just trying to push things along. There's been a little bit of volatility in the overnight session around the U.S., the European Open, and currently ECB's Draghi is speaking. So be careful if you're trading products that are impacted by the euro or the ECB. But we did get a whole bunch of earnings out of Europe, Germany, UK, and so on. Have reported and caused a fair amount of volatility as well. So that's that. Really, the theme is still the same. It's still just standing by and waiting for the market to do something. Yesterday, although we had pretty good price discovery, we ended up having somewhat of a balanced day. I'll go over that in a minute. In terms of what's ahead of us, again, it's the ECB rate decision that came out about an hour and 15 minutes ago. And then Draghi is doing his press conference. Currently, durable goods came out a slightly worse, negative 1.1% versus negative 0.8% expected. And for the rest of the day, we don't have any high tier releases. We do have some releases though at 9:45 Eastern. Market composite PMI, manufacturing PMI, and services PMI. At 10, we have new home sales, and yeah, and that's that. It looks like we're having a monthly budget for September on this calendar every day. Feds Williams speaks at 7 p.m. this evening. So not much on the calendar is the bottom line. Just pay attention to what Draghi's saying here if you're involved in those products. Let's take a look at what was expected yesterday versus what we got. Here we go in our review segment. Yesterday, the primary expectation is a continuation lower. That's scenario one. So I was looking for responsive buying into 3,000, getting tangled up in the 29.95 or so area, 29.98. And then I was looking for a lower low to the prior day. The secondary scenario is potential for a push down, but ultimately come back up and retest. And I thought I wrote it in here. Oh, there it is. Retest 3006.5. Yesterday's high is 3006, I believe. Let me take a look and make sure I'm not speaking incorrectly. Yesterday's high is 3006. So we got pretty close. So we did not take a dip. We did not take a dip down, but we did have the push up. Scenario two played out partially. The long into the prior range above 3,000, had to target 3,650 or so, and that was the reason for me drawing it out here. 3,650 is a single print before we get into the heavy balance we had the prior day. So here's here's where the heavy balance starts. You could see that the day before, Tuesday, was very, very tight, very quiet, and then we spilled out later in the afternoon. And so I'm expecting a little bit of resistance as we push into that over the next session or so. The overnight session, shows that we open right up and push right off. So we have a little bit of a continuation, pretty quiet and sideways through the Asian session, not much volume at all. And then we have these releases, these economic releases in at the European Open, during which time we got the earnings releases, actually not economic, but earnings releases from several companies, several majors, AstraZeneca in the UK and others, uh, Coca-Cola partners in Europe and so on and so forth. Looks like out of Germany, Metro AG and so on. So that caused a little bit of a whipsaw, but overall, if you look at the overnight session, complete balance, we are drifting up. We do have kind of a weakish high. There's some selling. I'm seeing some selling in Delta near the top here. And if you recall from a couple of days ago, because as you are all traders that follow the narrative very closely because you want to make money, as you recall from a couple of days ago, there was a triple top right here at 3,014. And so we're going to, and then we have a top the day before that at 3,014 and a quarter. And the overnight high, I believe, is 3,013 currently. Let me double check that again. Yeah, 3,013. So we've come back to these multiple tops here that we had, and we are likely to squeeze through. To me, it's a pretty, I hate to say this for trading because trading tends to surprise us when we get confident, but it's kind of a no-brainer that area has been tested, retested, 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 and it doesn't show it's an excess high. Doesn't show it's an excess high because we keep testing and testing and testing. Now, there are those who look at the double top, triple top, quadruple top as just major, major, major resistance and so on, and it may be in the short term. However, the way the auction works is if a price is unfair, at which point the move up would terminate strong, is unfair. The market tends to sell away from those areas fairly quickly to find the next balance. And it'll keep doing that, especially if the volume profile shows that there is zero interest or very little interest at that price, right? So we have an unfair high, the market moves away. But when the market does this and then it pulls back and it does this and it does this and then again it tests the same price. This is not an unfair high. This is a high that's being accepted, it's being well traded, and so we expect that high to be taken out, which is the exact opposite idea as a double top, triple top being resistance. It may present resistance for the short run, but in general, even statistically, I've tested this. There's a very, very high probability that those don't last. In general, they don't last through the session, and in multi-days, they don't last, but it could take some time for us to come back there. We're already back there with our overnight session at 3013, right? So that's where we stand in on the overnight session. Let's take a look at CT Bookmap for a view of what the liquidity has looked at like overnight. The overnight session is pretty quiet, really. Um, We don't have too much going on. We did have a collision at 13 just an hour ago. We got a collision at 13. We pulled back. We've gone sideways, and we are pushing into this key area, this 14, 15 area. We see liquidity up there, so we're likely to squeeze and fight here, potentially right on the open. But I expect that this is likely to break through. I expect a stop run. This is a natural spot for stops. Those people who trade the double, triple top, quadruple top are likely to flush out. So I'm looking for, I'm expecting that there will be some pretty big collisions on the offer, lifting and a quick run into 3017, 3018 this morning. We'll see how that works. Underneath us, as we go pull down on the full depth, let me get rid of this old stuff. Underneath us, we don't have very much until 3000. And above that, we have 3020. We have above the 3015, 3017, 18 area, 3020, 3023, 24, which is the intermediate high that we've put in the last 3 months. That's how things are flowing. So you can see that these areas coincide with my stock zones, which are on my book map already. So these stock zones coincide with these liquidity areas, and that's what I like to see, to be able to lean against an area that the market is likely to test or likely to have a hard time pushing through, except that I have to take context into effect here, into account. And I know that I'm not going to be fading this 15 area if it comes up here because it's a multi-high test. This is where context always drives the bias and the idea, and then the order flow just gives us an opportunity to see how we can refine our entry. This is how I look at order flow. I don't trade off of order flow by itself. So that's where we are in terms of what we're expecting for today. For today's action, let's switch to that. So for today's action, given that we have fallen back into bounce yesterday and then we are pushing back out this most recent composite, the overall expectation here, we're pushing right up against this high volume. We're pushing against these tops from the overnight session and then 3014 multiple times during the day session. I'm looking for an open auction against the point of control. I'm looking for it to attempt to test lower. I'm going to look for every reason for sellers to fail. I'm looking for a detection that sellers are really attempting to push lower and are failing to do so. I'm looking for a reason to get long into that triple top to push into 3015. I expect it to tangle quite a bit here in the 3015, then 3017, but I expect it to grind right through into 3020 as a primary scenario today. We have tested and retested the low. So if you follow the story, we have a gap up, we've pulled back, very nice. We push higher, we pull back, we spike lower, we test this 29.75 low, we immediately find buyers. So the following day, the bias was long, which was correct. The next day, the bias was long, which turned out to be incorrect after balancing for a long time. It falls off, but then we still have a higher low here, and this is setting us up. Yesterday is setting us up for a good strong run into that high. This is what it looks like to me from a contextual perspective. Now that I've scribbled all over my play map here, the secondary is we push through, get the 3015 done, we get the spike, and then we get sellers coming back in, bringing us back into balance, and then we test the 3005 from above, 3004, 3, and then hold steady for the rest of the day. That's the secondary scenario, that we could fulfill the job, but then we don't have the buyers sticking around to hold these prices, just like just like we didn't up here and we didn't up here. So once we break through, we might see us, it might see us pushing back over and squeezing lower. In that case, I'd look for 3003, 3002 as a key target right down here. So 3003 becomes a key target on the short side. 3020 is the key target on the upside if we grind through. That's my playbook for this morning. This is my plan. Make sure you do yours and understand why, because putting on a trade without understanding why, you're just kind of trading blindly. Don't do that. The goal is not to give you answers here. The goal is to have you walk through the process as if we're all sitting in a trading room together going over the day, which is what I used to do with my prop guys. So this is, I'm simply sharing this with you online versus something that's done in a group and talked about in an actual prop shop. So I'm inviting you through these trader bites into my prop shop essentially. Good luck today. Take care, and I wish you the best. Take care.